The Martians. Chapter 3. Greetings, this is Venkat writing. You both have done an admirable job and are to be congratulated. Words cannot begin to explain the stress of your situation, especially yours, Commander Lewis. I hope you can keep your bearings as you weather that storm. I hope you find comfort that your leadership saved your crew, and we are all working hard to bring all of you home. I know we promised you a rescue plan, and today I think we have a thumbnail of it. A lot remains to be decided, and we need to see if it is all feasible. We are working on that now. In a nutshell, the Orion 3 craft at Discovery Station will be tasked again for the Mars transit it didn't make 11 years ago. It will carry a crew of 3, including a pilot obviously, as well as a doctor and another engineer. Commander Lewis will be in command of mission until the craft returns to space and hooks up with Ars-4. Ars-4 will continue its mission on Mars. In the interim we have some work for you to do. The HAB has a life expectancy of anywhere from 14 to 18 months. That is based on very little empirical data, that is simply how long it took for Arzion 2's HABs to collapse. Of course that was without having a crew to maintain them, so we are not immediately concerned about your safety there. However, we do want you to start alternating the airlocks you use, as well as conduct regular inspections and if necessary shore up with the available spare canvas. A rover will need to be modified to support you on an overland trip to Ars-4. Boeing and JPL engineers are working on that now, but it will need to carry sufficient panels for charging, the reclamator and air systems from the HAB. Obviously those will eat power, as will the heat and the motors, so it is going to be a long trip. You will also need to bring all the food you can. Mark, I understand your farming is going well. It will be necessary to wait until after harvest to leave, but I understand that will be in approximately 75 to 95 days, which is well within our window. The botanists here also want you to maintain a seed crop and enough soil to restart growth on arrival at Ars-4. The HAB for that location will be there by the time you arrive and can be set up by the available crew at that time. A second HAB will also be sent, but it will be set up by the Ars-4 crew so as to not outlast its serviceable window. You and the crew of Orion will use the Orion as your living HAB while there, and the actual HAB for gardening and workspace. We will be reinforcing all the seams, especially those around the airlocks. In any event, should it fail, you will still have Orion. We hope while modifying the rover you will have time to complete the overall work schedule at Ars-3, and that on the way to 4 you will be able to collect samples at every stop. This will result in you conducting more research and sampling than the entire program was scheduled for, and will be a great boon to our work. There are a lot of details to work out, but that is the rough draft. Keep up the great work. Feel free to send all the questions you have to either Sarah or Stephen. We will answer what we know and figure out what we don't. As soon as all the details are worked out and feasibility is confirmed, I will get the info to you. Hopefully we can start modifying the rover by week's end. Talk this over and let us know your thoughts. No one knows your situation better than you. Take the day off. I know it is a lot to absorb, and candidly, Commander Lewis, you both need a break. Guys, finally, we have thousands of people working to get you home safe and billions praying for you. Don't lose hope, and if either of you need to talk to anyone, to help you face these difficulties, let us know. There is no dishonor in sorting through what you must be feeling while being as courageous as you both have been, and both will be. We all need to talk sometimes. You have the thoughts, love and prayers of the world behind you. Your crewmate, Beth Johansson, is now widely quoted as saying it's Mars vs Lewis and Watney. Don't bet on Mars. No one at home disagrees. Venkat out. Well, that fucks everything up, Commander Mark said after they finished reading. How so? What do I call you on our days off? He grinned. Right. Good point. I wasn't planning on having any. Let's go casual then. Okay, Missy. So, what do you think? Well, I have some ideas on the rover. I need to do some measurements though. We could load up the atmospheric and water systems from the HAB, but we may need to cut a few holes and remove some stuff to make it fit. Plus, the battery from the other rover, so that will double our distance, but then there is heat. It has a heater. Yeah, but if it takes half the power to heat the thing, then we only go half as far at a time. Good point. Snuggle. She grinned. Sure, let me make sure the system cam is locked and... No, on the trip. Right. No, it would still be too cold, plus we wouldn't be able to shower for 100 days or more. You might not want to be around me. You really are smart. Okay, let's worry about hygiene once we solve all the other problems. Lewis and Watney had breakfast and talked all day, planning the project. For Missy it was a great way to take her mind off Bob's divorce demands. The night before, as she lay with Mark in his bunk, she had decided to not fight them so long as the division of property was fair. 5 years really was too long to expect from a husband, and by not fighting about it she left the door open, at least in her mind, to reconciliation on their return. If they got back, which she still felt was unlikely. Meanwhile she would share her time with Mark, even though she felt horrible about it. She was after all the commander of the mission and it wasn't supposed to happen. It did, and she adored Mark and was open about those personal feelings for him in what should be a professional environment. She was a naval officer. She was a NASA commander. She was not supposed to, well. Too late. Mark was a great guy and when she woke, she felt less stressed than she had in years. So maybe there was an upside to it. Another upside. Mark, since he was a crew member, and not a commander or officer in the military, lacked that sort of professional emotional baggage and was completely cool with the situation. He had not been with anyone since that Mindy girl in Houston before he departed for launch at KSC in Florida. She had been sweet, and he could have really lasted with her he thought, but he went to space. He had always wanted to be an astronaut and had trained for it forever now it seemed. There was no choice to make, he was committed to Ars 3 long before he met her, but even if not, he still would have chosen space. He had already messaged his parents, just after communications were re-established to tell them not to worry, but if he did die, to remember he died doing something important that he loved. Being stranded with a partner as amazing as Missy was just icing on the cake. Sure, their relations were against the rules, he understood that, but they were way off the rule book at this point. Mark was fuckless about that. And about pretty much everything else lately. NASA could fire him for all he cared. All this lurked under their conversation while they worked on plans all morning. The specs for the rover's area sizes and electrical components were all available on the primary hab computer so long before NASA ever worked out the details. Mark had a plan for adding the systems necessary, as well as an area to sleep, plus they would have the pop-up tents, although neither felt like sleeping outside in a cold tent for 100 days or so. The heating was the only problem as far as maximizing the distance available for travel each day and it was this they discussed over lunch. Missy tried to think but was distracted by her thoughts regarding her pending divorce and her relationship, both professionally and personally, with Mark. Mark was distracted as he was trying to figure out if breakfast cereal with milk reconstituted from powder counted as soup. The hab heating system was too big and would take more power than the one in the rover already. The one in the rover sucked up half their power, but they would freeze without it. They could turn it on and off as needed, but that wouldn't help much. By allowing the interior to get cold, they would use more power to bring it back to hospitable so there really was no power savings there. They could not build a fire as they had nothing to burn and would die of smoke inhalation. A spark gap like Mark had used to make water would suck up more power than the heater. The only other source of heat on Mars was the light of the sun, and that wouldn't keep them warm. Well, that's not true, there was. Penny for your thoughts. Mark asked as Missy pondered. Mark. The RTG. I thought you buried on Sol 1. Yes, I did, but it would solve the heating problem. Well, yeah Missy, except there is a reason you bury those things. No, it's perfectly safe, unless the exterior breaks and the pellet containers break. And it would double our mileage. Okay, but it might kill us too. It's pretty solid, it traveled all the way here with no problems. And we could put it in some sort of containment vessel. We have a padded radiation-proof box laying around here I don't know about. No, but we have the coolers. The coolers were what the crew nicknamed a variety of sample box that was basically like a cooler, with some insulation so that samples could be stored at close to their original temperature while in transit to Hermes on the MAV. This allowed them to be examined in the Hermes lab before the temperature-induced crystallization broke down. All had been unloaded when they arrived, and most were still stacked outside. A few were filled and those placed on the MAV in case of an emergency evacuation. Those 5 or 6 filled containers were the sole scientific samples thus far recovered by Ars-3. Those won't stop the radiation. I mean, if there is a rupture. Well, we could cover it inside and out with HAB canvas. Well, that wouldn't stop it either, too strong. What about the MDV tower? What about it? The skin on it would work, we might have to double it. Yes. That shit is radiation proof as fuck. Who are you and what have you done with Commander Lewis? Sorry, got excited. I love problem solving. Also, Commander Lewis isn't here. It's an off day, I am Missy. And Missy gets excited and yells fuck sometimes. I noticed. Shut up, Watney, Mindy replied as she began to blush. It was then that the comm system pinged with an incoming video message from Stephen, Watney's non-existent college roommate that was used for personal messages. This one was apparently coming from the Hermes, however, a place where the non-existent Stephen had never been. Hey Mark. Beth grinned on the screen. She was about 4 light minutes away now, so response time would be slowed. Still, they were close enough to do one long message with the breaks being filled with images of each other staring at the camera. Mark and Missy were always happy to get messages from their crewmates, and usually got 1 or 2 typed ones every day. This was the first on either of the private channels thought. I know you guys are doing great. So, why I'm calling, videoing, is this. By now you have the rough draft of the plan. We, all of us, want you to know our take on it and get your support for our idea. Instead of us turning the ship over to Ars-4, we want to take the Purnell path and come get you ourselves. Houston can send us a resupply probe and you can use the Orion to join us. It will be a cost savings to NASA, and there really is no reason for Ars-4 since you will be there for months and can do all the research they would be going to do anyway. They can be retasked for the Ars-V landing site and so on. NASA gets a new Ars mission almost for free. What do you think? Please let NASA know you prefer to ride with us. We're a team already, so there are no cohesiveness issues to deal with. And road trips with all of us together are fun. Beth smiled at the camera and just looked cute as a button as she always did. Before Mark could answer, Missy leaned over and said no. You guys get back to Earth, you've earned it. We will be fine with Ars-4. Missy continued. She's right. You've done your tour of duty. But thanks. I appreciate the thought, and I know Commander Lewis does too. There is no reason for you to risk coming back here. How is everything on the Hermes? They waited until Beth replied. Before her reply they could see her smile disappear as she received and watched their message, about 8 minutes later. Then Beth's response came. Rick, Chris and Alex all said that is what you would say, and I'm supposed to tell you that we are going to push for it anyway whether you like it or not. You're our crew. We're coming back. You can't stop us. Commander, you can arrest us when we get there, but we aren't following an order to leave you abandoned so someone else can pick you up. Tough cookies, put your big boy pants on and deal with it. We left you there, we're picking you back up. Commander, could I talk with Mark for a bit? Sure, but I'm still saying no. Thanks, really, thanks. But get back to your families. Live long happy lives. That's an order. Okay, Missy is gone to quarters so we can talk quietly. Look, I know we've talked about this before, that time in Houston before we were accepted. It's a time I will always cherish, but we have both grown. I adore you, I always will, you know that. But I have to face that I might not make it out of this one. We probably shouldn't have been missioned together, but I know neither of us would ever turn it down. Here's the thing, I know you no longer want me. I get that, Beth. I understand. What I want to tell you is that I want you to be happy. I know you love Chris. I know Chris loves you. I think you should tell him how you feel. I'll be honest, it hurts me to say that. I don't know if it would work with you too, but as much as we have all been through together, well, you should try. Okay. If I die here, I don't want anyone regretting me. You and Chris are great together. Make it work if you can. Live happy. I want to remember us fondly until my last day. I want you to as well, and not regret anything. Okay. Mark stared at Beth, Remember every kiss that Smile had given him so many years before when they were both applied for a scan. He wanted to touch her now, to hug her, not romantically exactly, but just to know she was loved, and to know he was too. Mark knew there would always be a special bond between them. 5 or 6 minutes passed before Louise couldn't contain herself anymore. She was across the hab when Mark sent the message, but it was a small hab. Privacy was a pretense at best. The more she thought, the less she was able to control her reaction to what she overheard. "What the fuck, Watney? You and Beth?" Louise screamed from the kitchen area 50 feet or so away. "What did you say to her?" Mark managed to mute the mic before most of that went out. "It was long ago, we didn't even work at NASA then, we were just applicants, we met, we clicked, stayed together there for a while, and then she went back to California and I went back to Chicago. A month later we were both accepted. And we ended it. I know about that, Beth told me a long time ago." "Are you fucking stupid?" "Well, I don't think so. Remember, I was an alternate for the mission. The odds were way against us ever going into space together, so we decided to not tell. And you are stupid, aren't you? Why are you telling her to talk to Chris? Are you too stupid to know how she feels about you?" "What? No, see, her and Chris are just good friends. She told me how she felt about you around the time we passed proximity point, and I actually ordered her to not act on it. If I had known you two hooked up in the past, I would have never picked you for the crew before launch. If I knew how emotionally vacuous you were, I wouldn't even talk to you. You're an idiot. Wait, but me and you are together now. But that's still my crew up there, and probably a dysfunctional one now thanks to my idiot boyfriend." "Boyfriend? Well, I'm pissed off at you right now. Don't press it. Hey, Beth and I have talked about this. Before the mission, you'll see, in a couple of minutes she will come back on and tell you, we're totally cool about it. No big deal." On the screen they saw Beth watching the video Mark had sent, and it looked like her face melted. Then she shouted before disconnecting the image. "Fuck you, Mark Watney. You're a pig."